me to go ahead and start the recording. So all sessions are being recorded, and transcribed sessions will be available after Ultra Week. And automated captions are available through using using the Chrome browser. And if you need information on how to use that, just send me a message and I'll be happy to send you the instructions on how to set that up. All right, so this session is on accessibility in Ultra. Lorraine Sturgeon will host this session, and it's talking about how to make your Ultra course more accessible. And she is the Online Learning Accessibility Coordinator for KCTCS. So, Lorraine, I will pass it to you.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm going to take a second to share my screen. Okay. Hopefully you see that okay. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about accessibility. Obviously, we know that things that we put in our course need to be accessible, whether that's something you created outside your course, you created in the course, or that you're linking to something on the internet somewhere. All of it needs to be accessible. So we'll look at some things, some of the things that are on this checklist. So we'll look at things like running accessibility coordinator or checker, which is Ally. Is a tool that Blackboard has. Using a logical structure with appropriate headings, adding alt text descriptions to images, hyperlinks, captions, transcripts, appropriate color contrasts, and some PDFs and how to set accommodations. So those are some of the things that we'll be looking at. So let's start with Ally. So Blackboard Ally is a tool that checks your course and things in your course for accessibility. So there's a couple of different ways to get to it. So if you attach a document, you'll have a little icon here that shows you, kind of your score on what you have. So it can range anywhere from low, which would be red, to medium, which needs some improvement, to a light green, which is high, and then a dark green that's perfect. And so if you click on that little icon there, it'll pull up some information, and you'll have this little all issues icon here that shows you things that are wrong with your document. And so you can click on that and see that this particular thing is missing a description of the image here. We have somebody else's mic on. If you could mute your mic, Vanessa. And then this also has a table in it in this particular document that's missing the header row. So those are some things there that you can look at and find for this particular document. One thing that is helpful is that when you go to fix these issues, so this is a Word document. So if I go fix this issue in the Word document, I come back here and click Browse and upload the correct version that's been fixed right here in the accessibility checker. So that way there's not duplicated files in your Blackboard course. So we all want to keep that course size pretty low. So coming through the accessibility checker, putting the corrected version through here helps reduce those files duplications. Okay, another way to get to the Blackboard Ally tool. In Ultra, if you go on the menu down to Books and Tools, and then over here on the right, you'll see Accessibility Report. So if you click on that, you'll get in here. So you'll see a score for your overall everything in your course. It'll show you the types of documents and files and things that are in your course, how many issues, things that are easy to fix. You can start. Typically, those are pictures without a description. Those are kind of the easiest things to fix, and you can fix them right there. So if I was to click on here, let's see, here's a picture. So I could, type in the information, description about the picture, or if it was a decorative image that really didn't need a description, it's just there to make things pretty, you can mark it as decorative. And then it gives you severity lists. So, there's severe things that are really need to be fixed as soon as possible. There's some major, and then there's some minor issues. So we'll see here that this document was scanned, and we'll talk about scanned documents here later. Things such as empty headings. So you might have seen this recently. If you type in a heading and then hit enter, and then that next line also has the heading style applied. So we'll look at that later. But that's what that means, is there's a blank line that has a heading style applied to it. Appropriate heading levels. So again, we'll look at that here in a minute. You want to start with the top level, which is a heading or title, heading, subheader, and then paragraph are the levels within Blackboard Ultra. And then contrast issues and things like that. So these are all things that Blackboard Ultra Ally Checker is looking for. All right, so Blackboard Ally also has alternative formats. So when we upload documents to our course, so maybe you put in a Word document, or you're just typing in content within the course, Blackboard Ally gives you alternative versions of those documents or that content. So let me come back in here. So some of the different versions that Blackboard Ally will have for alternative formats include a tagged PDF, HTML, and you'll see that with this little A. So anywhere within the course where you see an A, your students will see that. They can click on that A, and they can download alternative versions. So say this is a Word document. They could download a PDF version of the Word document, an HTML. So if they're using, a lot of students like to use their mobile devices, so they can download the HTML version. A lot of students like to read ebooks, so they can download an ebook version, EPUB version. Some of our students that have disabilities, so maybe they're visually impaired or blind, they can download the electronic Braille version and use that with their assistive technology. There's an audio version, so say students want to listen to the content, say in their car or on a bicycle or whatever, they can download that MP3 version of the content. And then there's a Beeline Reader. So students who maybe have learning disabilities, these are very helpful for them. And then we have many students that English is not their first language. So there is an alternative version for translating, and there's lots of different languages that are available that can be translated there. So make sure you're letting your students know about these alternative versions that are available through Blackboard Ally, so that they know that they can have these options. And so this is not anything you as an instructor has to do. Ally is doing this all for you, and so this benefits your students. So let them know about those. Okay, so if we look at some of these alternative versions that are out there, here's an audio version. So I downloaded that and uploaded it in here so you can kind of listen to it. I'm not really sure here what this is, but let's see.
Ms. Shavardian said as she walked across Pasadena's 53.
So it's just an audio version of something that was in there. Here's an OCR version that we'll talk about a little bit later. Let's see, up here, I think I had a tagged PDF version of a syllabus, so it just converted that to a PDF that's tagged. Let's see, I thought I had something else. Oh, here is the Beeline Reader. So those that have learning disabilities, different things are highlighted for colors, and they can choose different settings on how they want that to be seen. So this is good for those. And then there's I think I converted this one into Spanish. So you can see that this was just content that was on a page. So that was converted into Spanish. So this is just a couple of examples of how to use some of those alternative versions that are available. So next, let's talk a little bit about logical structure. So I'm going to go into one of these courses. I'll just pull up the syllabus. Okay, so here is the syllabus section for the particular course. And so one thing that I do add in here, because the syllabus is the number one, one of the first things that the students are going to be looking at when they get into your course, is a little kind of side note about the alternative versions of the course that Black Ally gives you. So a lot of students will click on this thinking that's what they need to do to download this particular file, but I did put in here that the 3 dots is where they actually need to go to download the original file, and that the A is for the alternative versions. So that might be something that you might want to let your students know about, because a lot of times, again, they just go straight to this A because it looks like something they need to download instead of original file if needed. So if I come in here, let's look and edit this. So when we are creating our documents, whether it's in Word or in Blackboard itself, so our focus here is on Ultra, but in Ultra, we have text styles. So when we're designing our content, we want to use a logical structure. So typically you would start with a title. So this would be our title of this particular document. And then you would start the next thing in logical order would be a header. So you can think of this like a header 1 in Word. And then if you had some subheadings, this would be a header 2 or a subheading. So you could put that there. And then everything else would just be a paragraph. So that's our logical structure within Blackboard Ultra. So our title, header, subheading if you had one, and then paragraph. So just make sure that you're putting those there. Okay, so other things about logical structure, make sure you're using your bulleted or numbered list. So if this is your list, make sure you're using the feature here. So this little format marker icon is for our list. And so we have a bulleted list or numbered list. So make sure you're using those. Why that's beneficial? When someone's using assistive technology like a screen reader, using these features, we'll say item 1 of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Item 1 of 5 in the list and name it. Item 2 of 5 in the list. It would do something like that. So that helps them stay on track and know kind of where they are in the list. Okay. And then another thing I wanted to talk about were tables. So I'm going to come over here. I had a table in this one. Okay. So now in Ultra, we can add tables. So you see this little icon here. That's to add in our table. So just very similar to Office. So when we come in here, we add our table. What we want to do is identify the header row or the columns over here. So however you want to identify the information in your table, you need to identify what the headers are. So for this particular one, I'm using the header row. And so you want to label each column as the labels. So how this works with someone using assistive technology. So the screen reader, say they were using a screen reader, it would say whatever you call this heading, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And then the next thing would, it would come down to the next row. So whatever you had in here, it would repeat this, say what this is. repeat this and say what this is. And so it helps them identify not just what the information is in the data, but what it applies to. If not, it's just a bunch of data, just one cell at a time that it goes over. So the important things about tables is that you're using them for tabular data, meaning they can come here, tab on the keyboard, and go to the next thing. If you're using tables just to make things look nice and pretty and neat and organized, kind of like columns, that's not the reason to use a table. So make sure you're using it if you're actually showing data that you're wanting to tab through. And for Ultra, to identify whether you're using the row as the headers or the column as the headers, you just click this. So I'm using each row. This row is my identifiers. So I would type this as to identify that these are. If I uncheck this, you'll see that that goes away. So make sure that you're identifying either this way or this way what you're using to identify your columns. Okay, one thing I did want to mention were PowerPoints. Not specific to Ultra, but because we do put PowerPoints in our courses, that we are making sure we run the accessibility checker on our PowerPoints. So I'm going to jump over to a PowerPoint. So here's an old PowerPoint that I got from a publisher from a class that I used to teach. So I ran the accessibility checker for this. So in Office, you just go to Review and check accessibility. And you see that there's many different things that showed up in the accessibility checker here. So a lot of it had to do with pictures that were missing a description of what the picture is, contrast issues, the reading order, and then the title. So I really wanted to just hone in on these two things. The reading order in your PowerPoints are very important. So if you click on one of these things that say something about the reading order, when you click on these, the first thing in here, make sure that they're in the right order as to, if you want them to read the title first and then the content and all of that. So just make sure you check those things in your PowerPoints before you upload them into your course. Okay. So next I wanted to talk about alternative text. Let me jump back over here. Let me find something that has a picture. Okay, I think in this class there is one about, okay, so this one has a picture. Okay, so when you're adding pictures, there's a couple different ways to do that. So if you have an image that's out there on the internet or online storage, you can add it this way. Just hit attach an image. Or if it's on your computer, you can attach a file and add it that way. Once you get that added in, it's going to ask you a couple things. So your display name. So all of our objects, so images, charts, shapes, icons, those kind of things, need a description of what you're seeing in the picture for those who may not be able to see it or see it very well. So here's just what it's going to show up as when they click on it, when they see it in the link here. You want to add the alt text description. So describe what you want someone to get out of looking at that picture. That's what you put in the alternative text. By default in Ultra, when you add a picture, it's just going to have whatever you save the file name as the alt text. So you want to make sure that you come into the alt text box and actually put an accurate description of what's in the picture. So if your picture has text, you add the text that's in the picture, and if it also has, a person, you describe that person or what they're doing or whatever it is that you want them to get out of that picture. I saw something in the chat. A character limit to alt text. I don't know that there's a character limit on alt text. I don't think so. Not that I know of offhand, but I can find that out. Okay. Hyperlinks. So let's look at hyperlinks. So I did put one right here, so we'll just use this one. So when you're linking to content that's not in your course, so anything on the internet, and you're just putting a link in here. So I'm within a document right now. So I just attached a link to where this picture came from. So when you're linking, there's a little chain icon here to link an item. So whatever web page this is coming from, you put the URL here, and then you can type what you want it to say here. So you don't want your links to say the full URL. Someone that's using assistive technology, you don't want that to be read. Some of our URLs are really, really long. You don't want them to read every little thing that's in here. So instead, you want to provide a descriptive hyperlink. So this description here will tell you where that link is taking them to. I'm gonna get over here. So another way to add links, so that was within a document. So in Ultra, so say in a particular module, I want to add a link to something. So here I have a link here, so I'm going to edit that. So you would basically click this little plus sign and create, and then a link. It's being slow. So a link. And then pretty much do the same thing. So up here, you would type how you want that to show to your students. And then down here, you would put a description of what that link is going to take them to. So please don't leave that blank, else they just have a link to whatever you called it here, and they have no idea what they're supposed to do when they get there. All they know is that it's a link. So please make sure you put a description down here that describes what it is that you're taking them to, or what it is that you want them to get out of looking at that. So, you know, here, make sure you did that. So if we look at this one here, you know, a few samples of things to do and don't do when wearing a suit. So there's lots of little things here. So just make sure when you have those links, you put a description there. All right. So let's transition over to videos. Let's see. Let me find a video here. I think there's videos in this one. So there's a couple different ways to add videos. You can embed it. It's good to use embedding. So let me edit this. Or you can also do a link. But when you're in a document and you can insert a YouTube video. You can you know, link it if you have it stored on OneDrive or something like that. But I like to embed things this way. And so when you do that, make sure that you're finding videos out there that have correct captioning of the video. So yeah, there's lots of good videos out there that if they're on, say, YouTube, which is what probably most of us use, it auto caps for them, but you need to make sure that you are going back and editing the video. So I'm going to jump over here to YouTube. So in YouTube, make sure you're going back and adding the correct punctuation to the video, capitalizing letters, you know, the beginning of the sentences and all that thing, because although it's auto caption for you, you still need to go back through and make sure, you know, we all have accents, and so it may or may not capture the words correctly. Same thing if you're using Stream. So we have Stream available. So go back into your video if you're using Stream, go to the transcript section, edit, and make sure that it accurately describes what was saying. It's great if you have videos that are already out there. You know, a lot of people don't want to do those again, but you can upload into Stream or EULA. Some campuses are using EULA or Stream, and just make sure you're going back to edit those transcriptions or subtitles so that the captioning is actually correct. Let's see. Okay, and if you're using audio files, so say you're a music teacher and you have lots of audio clips, make sure you're providing a transcript for those. So that can just be a text file, you know, just open Notepad and add the transcript for that audio file so that, you know, if there's someone that can't hear the audio file, at least they have the transcript that they can read. Okay, so we'll move on to color contrast. So one of the big complaints about, I think, Ultra is the white, you know, not a lot of color. But we can still add pictures and things into our content in Ultra. Just make sure that whatever pictures that you're using, that they have appropriate color contrast. So again, a lot of people were interested in the banners, and we'll have sessions on banners coming up, but just make sure whatever images that you use has appropriate color contrast. And in your PowerPoint presentations, that you're using appropriate color contrast. I'm going to show you this one, you know, may or may not be good color contrast. There is a color contrast checker in our Blackboard or our KCTCS branding guide that has, you know, different things that show you whether things pass or fail the color checker. So just make sure your coloring is easy to read. So the dark background with the light text is the easiest things for most people to read. So there's lots of things on the KCTCS marketing brand guide that helps you identify, you know, what is good color contrast. And there's a lot of good color contrast checkers out there. So just make sure you're checking those. Okay, PDFs. So we did talk a little bit about PDFs before, and there's a couple of different things about PDFs. So with scanning our documents, so if you have paper and you go to the multifunction device printer at your campus, typically, you know, unless they have OCR software installed on that printer, it's not going to come to a PDF that's accessible. Every single page on that PDF is basically going to say image without alt text, image without alt text, every page. And so don't scan documents and put them into your course. If you create documents in Office and convert them to a PDF, make sure that you are running that accessibility checker in Office. So say you were using Word, make sure that you go through and fix whatever issues are found in the accessibility checker before you go and export them to a PDF so that they are tagged. So the tags come into play when you use those headings. So if you use the headings here, the screen reader will know how to follow along in that document. Blackboard Ally does have a tagged PDF version here. Not on this one. So this particular one, I wanted to give you an example. This particular one was someone had scanned a document on a printer to a PDF and uploaded it to their course. So instead of tagged PDF, it has an OCR version of the PDF. So what Blackboard Ally is going to try to do is take that scanned PDF and convert it to a OCR PDF. And so it probably is not going to be 100% accurate, but that is an option there. So if you maybe inherited a course from someone else and they have something in there that you don't have the original for that was scanned, you could maybe try this OCR version of that and see if that can help you get a better version of that. But in generally speaking, let's try not to use scanned PDFs or PDFs at all if we can avoid it. Word documents are perfectly fine. And that Word document, if the student really wanted a PDF, they can take that Word document and get a tagged PDF version of it if they want a PDF version of that Word document. Okay, accommodations. So let's look at accommodations. I'm going to go over here because there's no live students in this one. Okay, so in Ultra, if you go to your roster on the left, you will see all the students that are in your class. And to add accommodations for students. So typically they want time and a half accommodations. But if you click the three dots next to the student's name, there's an accommodations button. And once you're in there, there's a couple different options. So you can allow due date accommodations so that you know, they have extra time frame to complete their assignment. So, you know, their submission is not marked as being late if you turn that on for the due dates. The other option is time limit accommodation. So they would have extra time. So you can do a custom percentage. So, you know, time and a half, you know, whatever percentage, you can just manually type that in. Or you can give them unlimited time if you wanted to. So those are your options for, and this applies to everything in the course that you've had for them to do, their assignments to do. So that's a much better option from what we used to have when we were on original. You had to go through and allow that on every assignment. So in Ultra, the accommodations are much easier, and we have a lot more options here. Once you've applied the accommodations to a student, you'll see this little purple icon next to their name to help remind you that they do have accommodations. Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to talk about today was every college should have a online student orientation course, and that has information about accommodations for students. So let me pull that up. And then there is the Disability Services webpage. So you want to go out to that and direct students there. Oh, no, wrong one. So on our Disability Services webpage, it has information about how to request accommodations, links to all of the accessibility offices throughout the system. There's a nice video. Students really need reminders of the process of requesting accommodations. It's important that they request them as early as possible and not later. And it's also important that they know that the accommodations are not retroactive. Once they've been requested and approved, it starts from that point forward and not back. So just having students watch this little video about how to request accommodations and those things, and if they're a dual credit student, the difference between the high school accommodations and the college accommodations. And then there's also this little resource guide that's here on various different applications that we use in accessibility, assistive technology, and those things. So just wanted to go over those things. So that's all I had. And now I will go ahead and we can open it up for questions.
There are two questions in the chat from Deanna Morris.
Yes, so a white background with black text is probably the best thing, and that's kind of how Ultra is designed with the white background and black text. Um, and that is the easiest for most people to see. Yes. Let's see. Are you talking about Ally? Will it work on assignments from publisher content? Oh, for extended time. Um, I think you need to set that. You need to make sure that they're kind of in sync. So if you set extended time in Blackboard, you need to make sure that that is actually. I don't know that it actually will work on the publisher side. If you have say for example, you have a link to that assignment, it may not apply to the publisher side. Okay. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand and Vanessa can unmute you so you can talk.
So, Lorraine, this is just a question for me. Currently, if you are still using Learn and say you want to implement some of these options this semester, are any of these
Um,
functionalities available in Learn?
create a video. Um, well, we have Stream that you can use. You have, you know, YouTube. I use Camtasia. Some colleges have EULA or UJA. Um, you know, it just depends on what you have. And there's a lot of free things out there too. Does anybody else in the audience have any suggestions of what they use that they like for recording videos? And then you have, whatever's built into your, system. So some of the webcams have, built-in software you can use. Okay. So Deanna says Tegrity is part of McGraw-Hill Connect. Yeah, and if you just use, Teams or Collaborate or any of Zoom or any of those kind of things where you can just record yourself, just make sure that you're captioning those afterwards to make sure they're accurate. Someone mentioned Loom, okay. But kind of the tools that we have, kind of built in is Collaborate and Teams. So a lot of people use those. Congratulations, Brian. I do have a question for you all. Are there any accessibility issues or comments that your students bring up to you all? Oh, Kim says PowerPoint as well. Yes, I know a lot of people do voiceovers on their PowerPoints. Okay, what is the best way to get a transcript into a recorded collaborate / session? Okay, so if you create your Blackboard Collaborate session and you record it, and then you can download that, and then it's kind of a convoluted way of getting around it, but let me go into Collaborate. So you can just go back into your Collaborate sessions, if it'll let me back in, and upload your video that has been captioned. Oh, no, recordings. So you go back and collaborate, look at the recordings, and then I don't have any recordings in here, I don't think, but I'll show you where it's at. Yeah, so your recording would be listed here. So some process that we kind of have done, you know, you come down here, you download your recording, you can upload it into, say, Stream or YouTube, let it auto caption, fix those captions, and then download the correct video and upload it back in here. There is an option to download the caption files in these applications, so you can download your subtitles. In Stream, I think it is. Let me find it. You can download it here. So once you have the caption file, you can download that here if you need to. So there's a couple different ways to do it. Okay. So Brian's asking if you transcribe in Word and do not caption a file, is it acceptable? I think you can have one or the other. You know, it's better to have the captions, but you know, if you provide the file, that's fine as long as you have something. Because they can always take that transcript file and upload that into their assistive technology, into their screen reader. Okay, good questions. Have you all run into any other issues related to accessibility that maybe we haven't covered? Oh, Leah, go ahead.
So I have a question. Well, it's not really a question. I'm not sure if you were listening this morning. There was a conversation about PDFs versus Word documents. And in all of the literature that I've read, the suggestion is that when possible to use a Word document, it presents less problems for students who have difficulty seeing and need an assistive reader, even when the PDF is technically correct. Have you read anything different than that? Because someone else said when their course went through quality assurance at their college that one of the recommendations was to take everything that was in a Word document and put it in PDFs. Yeah, but that's against everything I've read.
You want any longer? Thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions as you go along in Ultra and making things accessible, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in here. I'll be happy to help you. If you need any accessibility trainings at your campus, feel free to reach out to me. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you very much, Lorraine, and thank everybody for attending.